Yes, we're back again, folks. It is Friday night once again on the bus. And as always, I say, you know what that means. It is that time again, folks, for that Friday feeling. Mate, the budget, we're going up in the world, mate. We're going up.
Mate.
So, yeah,
I've
graphics and
done my
everything
best.
now.
I've done my best in the January window, mate.
So yeah, we're pushing the boundaries now, bringing on screen graphics and everything. But yes, it is indeed Friday night, so it's time for that Friday feeling because the games are just coming thick and fast. They're just not stopping right now. The Scottish Cup is back in focus this weekend. We have trophy, obviously, we won last season, so we've got a title to defend. Although Brendan Rodgers today, when that was put to him, he says, "No, we're not defending it. We've got to win it." So that's his mentality. I was interested. One of the interesting things he said in his presser. We'll be talking about that tonight as well. There's a new member of the scouting team. We'll be talking about that tonight. I know Russell's quite eager to get his say on that because, he's been championing that one since it got announced. Just after I think you guys came off the air last night, it was breaking story. So you'll be speaking about that. And so we look forward to the Kilmarnock game tomorrow. So yes, for that's it done. So yes, it's the second week in a row. The Holy Trinity is back again on a Friday night, folks. So Russell, how the devil are you tonight, sir?
Yeah, man. All good here. Won the squash tonight, mate. So in a good mood.
Good stuff.
Good
Stuff. Dry January going well.
Dry January's going well. Not for my woolly jumper. I was wearing a wee woolly Adidas jumper on here a couple of weeks ago, man. Put it in the washing machine. Forgot to change the setting. It's just I've had to put it on pause. It's just like hearing a murder going on in that washing machine, man. I know it's getting absolutely wrecked, and I can't stop it and open the door. So I'm gonna take it out this way. Maybe fit the cat. That's probably what's gonna happen. So I went up, one down the night, won the squash, but destroyed a new jumper on the washing machine, man.
Sad times, mate. Sad times. Oh, but yeah, of course it is Friday night on the bus. So of course it's tradition, it is heritage on the bus. If I'm on, then surely Liam's not too far behind, and there he is. Well, he still got the shot open again, just like last week. Yes, indeed. So how you doing tonight, Canada's favourite Tim, as I always saying, the wise man of the bus, Liam Greenlaw. How's life treating you today?
Aye, good. Phone's ringing off the hook for people to try and get me to come and host Burns nights this year because it's on a Saturday night, and unlike most years when most people ignore it, there seems to be 4 or 5 good parties going to be kicking off in Vancouver, and so I've been invited to fling out the first haggis at a couple of them. So kilt in action, you know.
A wee side hustle for you there, mate. A wee money earner. Yeah,
I think that's my Santa Claus earner for January.
Okay.
He'll be in Grace's bar interviewing fucking Vida Reset before you know it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, as I said, we're going up in the world, so you never know. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that one. But before we go any further, you can help us out to go further up in the world by doing, as always, all that good stuff. Hit that like button, help us out with the old algorithms. You can hit the subscribe button. We're not too far off of 5,000 subscribers, so we're hoping to get to that landmark pretty soon. You can get involved in our comments section tonight, like many of you are doing. So let's see. So Patrick Kerrigan is in, Ali is in, Ian McIntosh. Say his name and he appears. It's Joe Henry. He's in as well. Alex Forsyth, Jim C, Jim Dolan, Scott Wallace, Michelle, Graham Tyrrell. Of course, he's in. He's got the klaxon ready. He's got the klaxon for that player that we don't like to say too loud, but I'm sure he'll ring it at some point tonight. But yes, all the hits are in tonight. All the favourites are in. And what else can you do? You can share the link in the Boise Bus on whatever social media platform tickles your fancy, and you can still go over to piesports.com and you can still use the code BUS1888 and you can still get 12.5% off your tasty pastry treats. So why wouldn't you get in about them, folks, while you can? And yes, with all that said and done, all the house keeping out the way, all that's done. So yes, let's get on with it, guys. So yeah, it's tomorrow. Scottish Cup is back. They say last season we went on and won the Scottish Cup. Pop quiz, can you remember our cup run last season? If I was to put it to you, do you remember it at all?
No.
See what I mean? It's totally escape. All we remember is Adavida's goal, isn't it, in the final? That's it. That's all we remember. So last season we beat Bucky Thistle 5-0.
Semi-final, Joe Hart, Aberdeen.
Joe Hart semi-final. Yep, 3-3.
That took the penalty, didn't he?
Yeah, he did indeed.
3-3 again, another 3-3. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I've had a few of them in recent times. It's not good for the old the old Hart watching that one. But yeah, we drew 3 each in the semi-final. But yeah, we started off our Scottish Cup run last season 5-0 against Bucky Thistle. Then we won 2-0 at St Mirren. And then we beat Livingston 4-2 at Celtic Park. Then we had the semi-final with Aberdeen, winning on penalties. And yeah, say we beat Rangers 1-0. Adam Eder scoring the win on the cup final. God, Adam Eder scoring a goal right now would be quite nice to say the least, because I caught up with TNF obviously this morning. I watched it. I was the day, and yeah, I agree with a lot of things you were saying on the Adam Eder stuff with he needs to play angrier, Liam. I think that's the case. I mean, that obviously the backing out of the challenge on Tuesday night was just perplexing. There's things in my head where I'm thinking, I remember obviously we played Motherwell this season at Fir Park and he did score that day, but he also copped a real bad challenge, which resulted in the Motherwell player getting sent off after a VAR review, and it makes me wonder, is that playing a part in his head, like tackles like that? Because it's like, look, man, Scottish football is hard. It's not a cakewalk up here. There's a lot of cloggers. There's a lot of rough and tumble. But to me, that one on Tuesday night, it's so bizarre how he just backed out of that one. And I say we need to find the fire somehow in Adam Eder. As I say, he had that moment winning the Scottish Cup for his last season, Liam. But as you said last night, it was it's definitely something that he needs to a bit more aggression. Really get angry, Adam Eder, isn't that right, Liam?
Aye. I think comfort's one of these things that settles into a team, and that can be your biggest poison, is when players are looking too comfortable being at Celtic. I've said that when you've seen other players underperforming and all that. I don't know, is that a flaw in Rodgers and on our coaching staffs? Is the fact that maybe a lot of them are too comfortable playing for Celtic, where they don't have that aggression or at least the tension that you bring on the field, that you have to do well, and get performance from that. Yeah, I don't know. I think like the more you see players really comfortable at being at Celtic, I think you're losing that little bit of edge in that performance. You want everybody challenging and being challenged for the job and all that. And we got players that just walk on the park and play 90 minutes regardless of form. So yeah, that looks to me like that could be a problem. And like an Adam Eder's looking a comfortable big bastard right now. So
yeah, he's had a wee run of games, and we all thought that was the secret to success. But yeah, he's still firing blanks at the moment. But I can't help but get this feeling that when a goal does come for him, by one of those ones where he'll score like a hat trick or something like that in one game, or like 4 goals in a game, it will just come in like waves. I just feel like maybe there's a chance. Maybe Harold Bratback years ago going through like real bad spells, and there was like one game he just scored like 4 against Kilmarnock, and the one game, that could be an omen. Maybe Kilmarnock tomorrow will cop it off Adam Eder. But something has been brought up a couple of times in post-match interviews and pressers, Russell, and I really hope this isn't the case, but Brendan has thrown it out there. He said it after the defeat at Ibrox, and he said it in one of his recent pressers about, maybe the players with the margin they've got at the top, and maybe, not getting taking their eye off the ball, but they are getting a bit too comfortable. And it's like, but they're football players, professional players. Winning should be the motivation. They want to win it by as many points as possible. They want to put a real exclamation point on this title. You don't want to start dropping silly points and still going, we're still miles ahead. We want to see the players will push on. And again, we need to be our sharpest, especially if we're still playing in European football going into February. Right. We need to stay sharp. We can't afford to take that off. But when I've heard Brendan say that now a couple of times this month, basically in January, and it's like, I really hope that's not the case, Russell. That's not the mentality that we need, mate.
Well, it's not the mentality we need. Sorry, I didn't know if you were talking to me there or that big spot on my chin, man. Okay, honestly, because someone could come up with a name for this in the chat, man. Honestly, Vesuvius or something. Honestly, unbelievable, man. Fucking 37 still getting big plooks, man. What the fuck? This is me off the drink too. Anyway, with regards to players dropping off form or any sort of creeping in of complacency, I do think there's an element of why it puts players off remaining at Celtic for longer periods. I think when, for example, they went bust and all that shit, I do think it took the edge. I think had it not been for the run that we did in the Champions League in the 12-13 season, I've got a hunch that a lot of the players may have dropped out that January or put in transfer requests during the season and things like this more frequently, because I do think when it becomes such big gaps, and let's be honest, they probably thought they'd had their jolt, their sort of wake-up call after the Ibrox game. To find yourself within like a matter of 6 days, you know, actually further clear than what you were going into that game. I'm not condoning it. I'm just trying to explain why I think it can come about. And I do think there is a lack of challenge here. And I think the European football running alongside domestic football, unsurprisingly, is when we've seen our best form domestically as well. The Champions League dropped off. Celtic look to have dropped off to an extent. I don't like the term slumping form, as I've said a million times, but certainly the performance levels dropped off slightly. And I think if you look at the timeline of fixtures that we had, undeniably, when the Champions League game stopped, that's when this so-called sort of, or definitely a drop-off in levels started to occur. And I think it's a welcome return to the Champions League, just to refocus us again as well. And that's maybe another reason why it's so important to have that focus and that motivation to do well in Europe, and that being something that Celtic board and team and manager pinpoint as a driving force behind these seasons, to keep it stimulated, to keep it sort of something that's exciting, something that keeps you worried and on your toes if you're going to lose your place or not, and something that keeps the levels up. Is you become a better player playing at home against RB Leipzig. You become a better player drawn away to Atalanta. You become a better player for trying to overcome Zagreb and Croatia in difficult conditions, in strange locations like that. And I say strange, unique occasions like that, because you don't go there often. Strange is a bit of a stupid word. Apologies. But, you know, I think that competition then spurs on the competition within the squad for places, because there's the young boys Bern game on the horizon. I better show up against Kilmarnock this Saturday, otherwise, because I want to be in that starting lineup. And by the way, they've all got their personal agendas, these players as well. It'd be great to think they were all badge kissers, man, and they were genuine badge kissers. They're not. Footballers just aren't anymore. It doesn't matter. KT will be the exception when he comes back. Callum McGregor's an exception. James Forrest, local lads. See all the rest, mate. Almost to a man. They don't come to Celtic because it's Celtic till I die. They come to Celtic because they want their career, their vision of their career. They want to be in that shop window. And in the meantime, that means they have to produce for Celtic, and I'm sure they thoroughly enjoy it at Celtic. But the Champions League's such a motivating factor. In fact, at all levels of football it is. If you look at an English Premier League, two clubs going for the same player, Champions League football will be the Champions League football qualified side will be the winner in that battle, purely because the player wants to be in that shop window. Yes, they want to test themselves in a sporting element as well, but they're always looking at their career trajectory as an individual also. And I think without that there, I do think that's why it's petered off a bit, as I've said. I think it's a welcome return to that, and I think any complacency issues Brendan's got will be eradicated once we're back playing Champions League football. I just hope that the performance levels can get back to where we've seen in the first sort of third of the season, maybe slightly more for those 40% of the season. We need to get back there. We need to get back there this weekend, go into the young boys Bern game. Otherwise, we'll be caught short and we won't be ready enough to take on what is a cup final.
Yeah, effectively. I mean, you can't get motivated for that. The prize that's at the end of it for us, then what chance have you got? See, with this game, you know, one or bust pretty much. We don't want to be blowing this and then having to go to Villa Park needing to get something, because Aston Villa, they'll want to be in the top 8 so they can skip over the next round and get a bye. And if Aston Villa are just sitting outside the top 8 by the time they go to play us, and they need a win, and if we need to get something, that's going to be a big, big problem for us. So we can get this done now, because our remit, our aim, our goal for this Champions League is we just want to be in the top 24. We're not bothered, I think, about what position. Obviously, the higher the better. But our whole thing is we just want to be in the next sort of phase anyway, so that we're still involved in it. So we've got a chance to make that happen. And we've had a couple of chances now in recent games, but we've just not been able to take them. But yeah, this is it now, coming up on Tuesday, or Wednesday, sorry. But yeah, it's just surely God, the players have got to find it. And then as if we do get through, again, with another big tie looming, so obviously we'll have the knockout phases to come again. The players have got that to aim for and be in the team for that. So again, these are all things, and hopefully there'll be some new signings as well in January. We'll talk about that later on, because Brendan dropped a few interesting sound bites in his presser. But before we go any further, Russell, look what you've went and started with bringing attention to that spot on your face with your Graham Tyrrell coming in and saying, call it Michael Mole. What else? We've got Spill the Gloves saying the boy say Boyle. So yes, indeed. Friday night, there always is. Every so often we get a show on a Friday night where we'll have people come in, we'll throw something out there, and then people come in with all these like crazy suggestions and funny names and that. So I guess that's tonight's topic is that. And also, before we go any further, something I forgot at the start. Every Friday I do guess the player. I guess the player once. I'll get the graphic up as well. I think it's quite an easy one this week. It's an easy one. But again, don't shout the answer out just yet, guys. We'll come back to it at the end of the show. So tonight's mystery player hidden behind the Boise Bus logo has only got a short career of 4 teams. I think it's quite an easy one. So he played for BFC Dresden. Then he went to Bayer Leverkusen. Then he had a spell at Celtic. And then at Hertha Berlin. So, yeah, a short career. But I think it's safe to say he's an underrated player, I would say, in Celtic history. But yeah, we'll come back to the answer at the end. So I think it's quite an obvious one. But yeah, that's tonight's mystery hidden player. But yeah, with that said and done, let's talk about then the story from last night, Russell. Roughly about 9 o'clock last night, the story was out there that David Pleat is going to be joining the scouting team at Celtic. I'm led to believe this is a move from Paul Tisdale, was it? The boy that was appointed. Team. That's the winner so far, I think. I think that is the winner so far for Graham Tyrrell. Yes.
Listen, I only pointed out what everyone would have been looking at. Do you know what I mean? Go, fucking, what is that on his face, man? My Timo Pukki, very good.
I just seen it.
But yeah, with the David Pleat stuff, Russell, you've been a bit of the minority here. I've noticed that you've been very vocal on Twitter about this is a good appointment. You talked about him being on TalkSport not too long ago, a few interviews, a few sound bites he did. Very, very sharp. I mean, people are obviously looking and going, 80 years old, and instantly just making a judgment based on that right away. But just before we went on, just so we can talk about it, you said you went back and you've watched said clips on TalkSport's YouTube page to just verify it in your head that he was as sharp and as on the ball as you think. And yeah, man, I've not seen them. So yeah, what did you learn from listening to David Pleat?
Oh, he was brilliant. I mean, just first and foremost, I mean, the one thing I want to get abundantly clear here is that fucks me off that they would judge just based on age. Everyone to a man near enough on that Twitter last night. Well, what we doing with this dinosaur? Someone sort of a curb muncher or something like that. I don't even know what that means. But it frustrates the life out of me. These will be the same people RTing 2 minutes later. Hashtag be kind. Hashtag don't all the woke stuff, and don't judge people for their gender or the colour of their skin and all this, which is absolutely right. When it comes to age, so they're just a wee blind spot, and without doing any research whatsoever, not one fucking clue what David Pleat's been up to in his football career of late. They see 80 because it was put in the headlines. And I get why 80 years old is put in the headlines, because it's an extraordinary age to be taking on a role at Celtic. Only because it's an anomaly, not the norm. Not because 80 means we've just given a job out to someone who whose faculties are all disappearing from him. Far from it. And it frustrates the life out of me that these people jump on there so uneducated on something, but play the man and not the ball. Now, see if you've got something you're pissed off about David Pleat getting the job. Make sure it's a football point. And don't come to me because 80 years old. I've seen it on a headline in the Sun. Nobody cares, mate. If you actually look at it, he was working for Spurs last year. He's been a director of football at Tottenham twice. In the Levy era, the Daniel Levy has been director of football and manager. Well, that's out recent.
Multiple times been manager.
He's been involved at Luton Town of late as well. And what I liked about when it came to random questions about, say, like the boardroom, this guy has a handle on how the finances will be dictated from both sides of the fence. This isn't a guy who's going to go, well, do you know what? Marcus Rashford's not getting a game at Man United, so You know, he could be available. He is going to be looking at players he knows will be in the marketplace Celtic will want to shop in. He'll know the parameters of what Celtic can and can't afford, and he knows how the conversations work between recommended players to manager, manager to board, board back to manager, and the return of serve that they might get in terms of how much expenditure the player would cost, whether it's a year or nay. This guy was quoting off players, I mean, his transfers he brought in at Sheffield Wednesday in 1997. Funnily enough, he included Paulo Di Canio in that. He just rang off like 3 players he'd signed in 97 like that. Now, these aren't badges of honour, by the way, because you would expect anyone to be able to do that who's getting a job at Celtic. But if we go down the road of 80-years-old dinosaur, then you can't help but feel to be impressed that a dinosaur has his finger on said pulse. He instantly quoted that England had 32 internationals in the last 2 years. Started bringing off the fringe ones who'd earned the cap and whether they would earn one name by name, by the way.
Yep.
And as I say, I was more intrigued by the fact that when he speaks about what the relationship's like when you're a manager going to the board looking for money, and when it doesn't work out, how the conversation peters out, he flips it and then goes, and Simon Jordan kind of pushes him into it, going, but I bet you didn't like that when you're a manager. It's easy to say that as director of football. And he gives brilliant examples of how it works the other way around as well. This guy proved to me he's got a memory as sharp as a tack, as I say, but referring to the previous sort of players he'd signed for 6 months and stuff at Sheffield Wednesday. He could just list them off like that for 1997, 98. But not only that, he can ring off the names of players that have had 1 cap for England over the last 2 years. It's a 32-man pool of late. Things like this, as well as the knowledge on the other side of the game, you know, from dugout to boardroom level. I think it's a good appointment. And this isn't something that we should be looking at with disdain based on age. And anyone who does do that needs to have a fucking hard look at themselves and probably go through their previous tweets that will have to do with politics and all that, and you know, all that nonsense and news articles where they're all getting really offended by very little, and actually have a look at what their antics are like with regards to this sort of thing, because it's pish patter to be instantly just seeing a number 80 and then making a judgment call on that when you've done absolutely fuck all research, or for someone who's meant to be into football, have fucking no clue whatsoever what David Pleat's been doing in football, but you'll quickly just tweet that he's an old man and a dinosaur. It's foolish, it's stupid, and you know, I remember the last guy who came for Celtic, whilst he might not have been a massive success in the dugout, I think that Dr. Joseph Venglos was you know, late 60s, early 70s. He still had an eye for a player at that age, did you know?
He certainly did. And the thing is, well, William, on the the age thing was something that obviously comes with age in this game, experience, and what do you do as well? And having that many years in the game, you build a lot of relationships, friendships, and obviously contacts. And Ian McIntosh says exactly that. Pleat will have some amount of contacts, and if you're in a scouting role, that is a crucial part of it, because you know I don't think Pleat's going to be one for all the sports science. The XG says this and all that stuff. He's going to be all about the eye test and going to watch players in person. I say all the contacts he's going to have. So I believe his remit is also he's going to be looking at the English market, which Russell just said there. He was able to rattle off all 32 names of all the players that have had 1 England cap in the last the last 2-3 years, whatever it was. And it's like, so it just shows that he's on the ball. So yeah, I think the fact that, with that experience comes a lot of contacts, and it's so vital to have. So I don't see any real problem with it being, especially in the scouting team. This was all part of the boy Paul Tisdale that's came in. Say apparently this is a production is. And if he trusts him and he's worked with him before and, knows what he can, what he can bring to the table, then I see no problem with him.
Mate, I'd be prying that notebook out his hands this weekend to figure out some names, because it's 2 weeks into the window. I mean, I think, yeah, it's a great appointment. Everyone Boise says, I agree with that as well. The ageism, all that stuff, totally get it. Guy probably is sharp as a tack. You know what? And it might be very data and science driven as well too, because he might have come up through that and been an early adopter, being in those positions at that time. So he's probably seen sports science build and data, and that's probably is a better idea, the usage of that, to apply it to the other aspects of the game that he's intuitively and knows about, and that's like, the feet in the grass, the ball in the air. I think the only thing that's bothering me right now is just the timing. Because I know I've got him in earlier. You know, we're in the middle of a transfer window right now, and you know, I'm wondering where's our scouting. I'd also like to see is, you know, do we have a Scottish equivalent of that role? Because one of the things we are really, really negligent right now, I feel, is scouting the best young Scottish players, and you know, we've teamed to get them developing and build a team around them rather than just cycling through them. I think we need to get better. We need to build back our Scottish core that we need for these European games and just also as part of our identity. So hopefully he's got some great contacts up in Scotland as well that might be able to get some Scottish boys playing down in England or something like that that could come back and fit some of that quota as well. That's what I'd be interested in seeing. Those ones that have fell through the cracks that we've not seen in Scotland, but are, you know, academy trained or Scottish born, you know.
Do you think that should be a different scout allocated for that? My guess would be that Pleat's knowledge will be the English league football, and I'm guessing if he's got Spurs, they're probably looking at the best youth products. Some will have made the grade, some will have just missed the cut. See the ones that have just missed the cut, that, you know, a bigger club's not bought up. I bet he's got a list of those in England, and I do think you're right. I think a similar appointment based in Scotland would be brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I can't think of anyone, you know, off the top of my head.
Philip DeMarco, just put a name on the screen. Look on the screen at the comment. I put up Philip DeMarco coming in with a suggestion.
Adam Virgo, mate. There's always something in it for Strachan. See, the thing is with Strachan, man, his signings are just too dodgy for me. There's always something in it with Strachan, and you know, I've done a wee segment on that before, Phil. I think you were quite blown away by the amount of deals, and I was like, that was all old pals acts. So
Adam Virgo, ring any bells?
Adam Virgo, I mean, Mark McGee, manager of Brighton skin toe, and there's 1.5 million just from me to you. Fuck off. So it wouldn't be Strachan for me, but someone of that ilk who's been there, seen it, done it, cutting about Scotland, finding the best. I think it's definitely Liam's right. That role would be something I'd be keen. They maybe have one. We just don't know about it. I think they said Celtic have now got half a dozen scouts, including Pleat, which seems relatively low and worries me. And I don't know your thoughts on this, Liam, but worries me that is everything now really being solely focused, and maybe why their windows have been so poor, on data-driven sort of, you know, stats. Is that what they've been basing a lot of these signings on, rather than, as Phil calls it, the eye test?
Aye. Well, that might be the missing ingredient as well. Just that application of a hands-on knowledge of someone that's been in the muck, and you know, and I think you can't underestimate, you know, hands-on experience. So you can read all the books on kung fu if you want, but you don't know if you can use it till you're in a fight, you know. And so, you know, that sort of data and analysis and all that. And right now, where we tend to lose is when we're in a fight. That's when it really shows up, funny enough. Shows up not in the tactical and the technical parts of the game. It shows up in the battling. That's where we lose. You know, you see some players that might not be Celtic class, because when they're in a battle, they shirk out of tackles, they back down, lose headers, lose focus, you know, all that sort of stuff. And that stuff might not come up in the data. And that's where a guy like Pleat might be able to see something in a boy that says, okay, you know, this is what everybody's overlooking, but if you apply them this way, and I think that's where his managerial nous comes into play as well.
Exactly, mate. He'll know about the character, the type of personality as well. And think of the contacts he must have down there. Like, he just picks up the phone. He's got so many of these managers, or so many of the chief scouts at other clubs, directors of footballs at other clubs, etc., chairman as well. You'll have so many of these numbers just on time to go, what's he like? What's the boy like? Because we like the look of that player. You had him 2 years ago. What's his personality traits like? And he'll know the type of personality that Brendan's going to be looking for, or Tisdale is. You know, they'll be having in-depth chats. It's something to be excited about that we've done it. The only caveat I'd put on it, I totally agree with Liam, Phil, is the fucking timing. How is it taken to the 17th or 16th of January last night? I mean, has he been in situ for longer, and it's just not came to light? You would like to think these talks have been ongoing for far longer, and it's going to come out, so we'll just release it as a story, but it was a non-story that they had to release before. I'm hoping that's the case, because I don't get how you'd be tooling up your scouting department halfway through a transfer window, albeit it's fucking Celtic, so that may well be the case.
Yeah, it's a January window as well, but once upon a time we were told it's a notoriously difficult window to shop in. So why on earth would you appoint a scout halfway through it? So you like to think that maybe, just maybe, there has been moves in the background and they have, just announced it now. But the thing is, as well, no smoke without fire and all that. Again, I'm just theorising on this one, but obviously we have been linked to a player in the lower.
My theory is they've been working on it since he was in his late 50s.
Probably, aye. This is the Celtic board after all.
It's difficult. It's difficult to get scouts in. It's difficult this time of year to get scouts in. It'll be something like that. I'm surprised they didn't have a big announcement on those Celtic Twitter when everyone thought it was going to be KT. Celtic announced Fleet.
Didn't see that one.
Welcome, Fleet.
But I'm just realising in the event that maybe, let's say he has been in place and it's just they've just kept the announcement quiet and now they've put it out there. So he's obviously his remit is to look at the English leagues and that and players, in that market. And recently we've been linked with a boy who, by all accounts, seems to have been scoring quite a lot of goals in England. Louis Barry, I believe, is an Aston Villa striker. Now, interesting move here, because it kind of plays into another thing that's going on right now for us, Liam, with the Alex Vallier thing, where it seems that Barcelona are going to recall him and move him on somewhere else on the basis that they've got another deal lined up to get him more game time, whatever. So this boy, Barry, has been scoring a lot of goals. I think it's Stockport, I want to say, he was on loan at from Aston Villa. And they've randomly brought him back. But he's on fire playing weekend for Stockport, and he scored loads of goals. So bringing him back with just randomly, is he going to get a game at Aston Villa, or do they have something else lined up? A bit like what's going on with Alex Vallier right now, with the talk that he's going to get recalled because they've got something else lined up. So he is recalled after a really good first half of the season. Celtic's name is swirling around. David Fleet has been announced as a scout working with Paul Tisdale. And to be fair, Paul Tisdale will probably be looking at a lot of the English market. Maybe it's a production for him. But to me, I'm like, okay, there's similarities here. You don't just recall a player randomly on loan. Maybe the value one, if he's not getting the game time, I can understand it. But when a boy's doing really well, and let's be honest, is he going to go and play in the Aston Villa first team, given how good that John Duran is? Probably not. They've still got Ollie Watkins. So it does make me think, Liam, that maybe there is something in this one, perhaps, or am I just out there just theorising a bit too much, mate?
I don't know. So I saw Rodgers' press conference today where he said Alex is still very much a part of this team.
I know, just to confuse it even more. I know.
But he said more than that, though, Liam. He also said my loyalty is towards Alex. In his development. He says, however, if something were to change and it were to lead to Alex not getting game time, I would need to let him know, frankly, that was the case and protect him, sort of thing. So what could that something be that would change Alex Vallier's potential game time?
I'm hoping it's a Kieran Tierney thing.
He's alluding to that, definitely.
I've said before, I think my worst fear is that Kieran Tierney's coming in to replace Trusty and Scales, and we're still left with Claxon.
Go on, Graham Tyrrell.
My little pony playing left back, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm at a loss with Rodgers at this point. I thought by this point he would be just jumping at the bit to address that situation and get it sorted. Either Valley staying, Taylor staying, Tierney's coming. I mean, this could still bite us in the ass. I mean, he's still playing for games down there. He's still training down there. You never know. True Celtic fashion, Murphy's Law, whatever. He's liable to pick up an injury before we come here, and then we're still, finishing the season with Greg Taylor. I'm really for somebody. We got rid of a left back for what, 7 million that we paid for and something for. So there's no reason why we should be waiting for guys to come in and out and finish up loan spells and all that before we try to strengthen this team. Disappointed at Rodgers. I said that last night with you, Russell. Really disappointed with Rodgers because I thought I'd see more assertiveness from him at this point. No with the press, no with us and all that. That's easy. But I want to see him with himself and his own standards and all that, because if he's trying to pass himself off right now that what we're seeing on the park is him and what we saw against Dundee was just a blip. No, you came up with a manager that had tactics and had a plan and wanted to play and figured out how to do it. Clement's done it as well now as well. So, don't be so smug right now. And, I think you need to strengthen this team because it's, I know Celtic's looking like generational. You know what I mean? Like it builds, like right now we're in the Callum McGregor phase. Before we were in the Scott Brown phase, and there's a certain nucleus of players that we can't drop, substitute, or move on, regardless of how much their performance, dissipates, right?
Yes. What do you go, Russell?
Yeah, I just think that with the value deal, as I was trying to explain last night, it'll be Celtic. It's not up to Barcelona to terminate that loan. I was trying to say that to the chat last night. It was likely there was two possible outcomes. That Barcelona had a recall clause, which Celtic have inserted in loads of deals. Or Celtic will need to agree with this. I do think if you look at the language Rodgers used, is he'll go if something changes, the situation changes here. The only situation he's referring to is Kieran Tierney joining in January. So they're quite clearly either working on that or they're extremely confident it'll be done. There's no way the Valle loan deal gets cancelled by Celtic, which is the hinge right now, the hinging factor for whether Valle goes to Como or not. It's all based on whether Celtic terminate that loan and agree to terminating it. Celtic will not terminate that loan until KT is guaranteed to be joining this month. They will not do it. I'm in no doubt.
They did it last year with Behrami. We said Behrami and we had one recognised half a left back.
Well,
I get your point there, but Valle's an important part of the squad at this moment in time. Behrami wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. The interesting bit is on the value stuff. I took notes from his presser earlier. I've got it written down here. Some of the terms that he used on the value stuff. So obviously, Brendan says value.
This will be me misquoting left, right, and centre, ladies.
No. You're on the right track. Where you were on the right track with some of the stuff he said. But so Brendan says that value is still very much part of the team and getting ready for tomorrow, which is interesting. Again, goes against everything that's swirling around right now. Asked if any announcement has to be put off until the European Games are done, but he's quite vague in his answer because again, it's like we wait until that's out the way. So he didn't really say anything on that. But then he did use the term. There's lots of moving parts going on right now. Read into that what you will. He was asked about if Vallier leaves, and this is interesting, Liam, because this plays into what you've said. If Vallier leaves, the journalist says to him, you wouldn't want to go into the second half of the season and play a light now, would you, Brendan? And he says, and this is a literal reply, word for word, there's absolutely no way that would happen. But as you've said, a year ago, in March, we decided to loan out Behrami, leaving us with one first-team left-back, and in the event, Greg Taylor got suspended or injured in the last 4 months of last season, we would have no left back. We'd have to rely on somebody for the B team, or maybe, just maybe, Liam Scales would have started at left back. But yeah, when he's saying there's absolutely no way that would happen, well, watch this space. I wonder if there's another left back out there that might turn up this month. And also, Brendan stresses that Alex has loved his time here. He's got a chance to play in the Champions League, and the player himself is in no hurry to leave. But he hints that if the dynamic was to change, which obviously you've talked about there, then obviously things could go in a different direction. Talks about his commitment to giving Alex game time, but says the lad understands the situation here. So that was what he said on value. So a few interesting points there. I did think that there's absolutely no way that would happen was a quite interesting quote, Russell, to say, because given 8 months ago, we did allow that to happen. So who knows? It's a guessing game right now, mate.
I do see it as different scenarios. I think when you look how many starts Valle's had, how many sub appearances, you contrast and compare that with Behrami last year, who was a million miles away for the first team. It's not the same loss. Rodgers will have much preferred to be working with 2 left backs he sees as feasible for his team, and Behrami wasn't in that equation last season. So I do think there is different scenarios there, albeit they still should have went and got a left back last January. I don't deny that. I totally get that. But the actual loss of Behrami isn't the same as losing someone who's contributed as many minutes as what Valle has this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's had a few assists. I don't think Value's been terrible. There's a lot of people on Twitter just saying, oh, good man, we won't be missed and whatnot. But I think Value's been all right. He's still nowhere near the finished product of the player that he can be, because obviously he's still very, very young. But I think he's done pretty well for the most part. He's definitely gave us a good support coming forward on that left-hand side, because he's got a few assists to his name. It's so that's always handy, because Celtic are always known for coming down the wings and fullbacks that push forward and stuff like that. So it's been quite refreshing to see him getting forward, getting crosses into the box, getting involved in playing the one up at McDermott Park. We beat them 6-0. He's part of the 6th goal where he plays the 1-2 with Luke McCown. McCown chips it over and he back heels it into the path of Adam Eder. So yeah, he wasn't afraid to get forward and whatnot. So I think value is fine, but it looks like something's happening anyway. There's no smoke without fire and all that. Another interest bit, did you watch the press conference? Did you see when he was asked about Johnny Kenny? Did you see his expression on his face? He looked like he didn't even know who he was. He thought about it for like, and then he seemed to have an answer. Like he was genuinely looked stunned, like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, so his answer was obviously, the plan with Johnny was for him to come back and for me to assess him. And he just kept it really vague and short and just said, but he's done well. I feel like had the injuries not been what they were at Ross County, that answer to me strikes of Johnny Kenny wouldn't have been involved in the squad. It was just a situational thing that he happened to find himself on the bench because we were quite depleted, went up to Dingwall with injuries. But I thought the answer and the look on his face when they asked him about Johnny Kenny getting a chance in the next few months, and he was like, it was like he didn't even know who he was. It was absolutely bizarre to him.
I thought it was very disrespectful to Johnny Kenny. Using Brendan's terminology. I was really puzzled by that as well, because I thought, wow, there's a good idea to talk up a young player as well that is back. But he made it, we'll assess it and this and that. It was like this. It was the worst middle management answer I've ever heard. Come on, Brendan, you're getting paid better bucks than that. Come up with a better answer. He asked you what your plan was with Johnny Kenny to assess him. That's not a plan.
I don't like it. Well, San Fran Celtics came in and said Brendan didn't want to put pressure on Johnny Kenny. Possibly, but I mean, with the way things are now with the strikers, Russell, and this boy is in and amongst the first team now. We've got two strikers who have been misfiring. Adam Eder more so misfiring. Kyogo's obviously, but it's like he's there as an option. But yeah, I just found it such a strange. I don't know. For some reason, Brendan went out of that presser today thinking that Johnny Kenny's name might not come up. That would be a bit of a surprise, really, if he thought that. Be a bit naive, I think, because it was obviously going to come up with the striker situation right now. And obviously, we didn't put him on Tuesday night, which again got a few questions where, it's like, well, shouldn't he have got on and got a chance? So I did find that reaction to be really odd from Brendan, but we'll wait and see what the future holds for Johnny Kenny. But I thought in the wee cameo we had against Ross County, there was a bit of me that thought he's got a wee bit about him. There's something there that we can work on. But yeah, it says today he just looked like he was totally taken aback by a question about Johnny Kenny. Like he couldn't even remember who he was for a second there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't believe it. I think he knows exactly who Johnny Kenny is. I think you asked Brendan that question in February, March, and it's a completely different answer you get. You need to remember, look at the date, look what we're in right now, a window. That tells me he's asked for a striker, and therefore is going to act utterly perplexed that Johnny Kenny could be an option, because I'm trying to tell the board I need a third striker without you lot fucking promoting one from within. I'm trying to get a new striker in. It's all a game. It's all a complete game, and he is not wanting to look to the board like he is in agreement that Johnny Kenny's at first team level, probably because, and it's no disrespect to Johnny Kenny in any way, shape or form, when that question's been put to him, what about Johnny Kenny from the board? He says, I need more. I need better than Johnny Kenny in January window. I would guess it's all deliberate. There's no way he's forgotten who Johnny Kenny is. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind the reaction is staged and based on playing the card game that he is right now with the board. And you look at the date, it's so important. Middle of January transfer window. He's asked that question either side of January, particularly if we'd had a good window, for example, and he'd be enthusing about the impact Johnny Kenny's had in training and how much he's improved since his loan spell. And this is what we do at Celtic and all that carry on. You'd have heard a really long-winded and enthusiastic answer, as I say. It's not going to be the case right now where he's pitching for improvements. That's all it comes down to. I do think it's not maybe I'm not saying I agree with the response either. I think Liam's kind of got a point. It can look disrespectful and all that, especially if you're going to be all antsy about some folks singing Kieran Tierney's name. And then suddenly it looks like you've forgotten. But it's all a game. It's all staged right now. And it's all about keeping the pressure on the board and Brendan's arguments being seen through. And right now, he will be at loggerhead saying, I don't have 3 strikers that are first team ready. I have 2. And when that reporter comes in saying, let's talk excitedly about Johnny Kenny, he's got to pour cold water on that because that doesn't suit the agenda he's pushing to the board, which I would almost be 1,000,000% sure of will be left back, Kieran Tierney, winger, striker. I think that's almost a given. They're the players that he's looking for this month. And if that's the case, then he's got to sadly downplay the impact that he can see Johnny Kenny having, or his knowledge that he's even there.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Johnny Kenny plays any part in any games going forward, even if he's still here by the end of the month, because like Noah McKee says, he'll be loaned back out to Raw and someone signed for the end of the month. We'll wait and see. But anyway, let's talk about the Killie game tomorrow. Say Scottish Cup is back on the agenda. Kilmarnock at Celtic Park. 5:30 kickoff. I believe it's on Premier Sport. They're covering it tomorrow night. I quite like a wee Saturday night game, to be honest. I'm not too fond of Celtic Park games on a Sunday afternoon, but because I was worried when the draw came out. I know there's always a slot for a 4 o'clock on a Sunday live game on the Scottish Cup, and I just thought, oh, please don't do that. So yeah, we've got a 5:30. I can remember a few years back in Brendan's first term, we played Airdrie in a nighttime game on a Saturday, and it was a proper feisty game as well, a proper cup tie. Like there was a real nastiness in there. I mean, it's Airdrie at the end of the day, I mean, they're just as bad as them across there in Govan. So, yeah, I can remember that being a nighttime game under the floodlights. It was quite a good cup tie that night. So, yeah, it's another 5:30 kickoff for the Scottish Cup. And as I say, we are the holders. We had a really memorable run, as I showed at the top of the show there last season, because, yeah, nobody can remember much outside of the semi-final and Adam Ida's goal in the final. But yeah, let's talk about what Brendan said in the presser regarding who's available. So he says we've got a full bill of health, apart from James Forrest is still not available. But other than that, everyone is ready to go, including Liam Dyson Maeda, who would be welcome back. Although he did say, interestingly, that it wasn't necessarily an injury that was keeping Maeda out. It was, as he called it, a circuit breaker, because he's just played that much football. He just needed a wee break, essentially, but he's ready to go. So for me, right away, given how wingers in particular, it's been a bit flat recently, and we know how unpredictable but exciting Dyson Maeda can be. I would have him right back in there tomorrow, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maeda, that's what we sorely missed, especially when we get high pressed as well. And I think Trusty has missed Maeda coming back for that out ball as well, or at least making the movement up front to drag guys away. Yeah, I think he walks back into the team. Maybe we'll see him at striker as well right now. If we're, I know Rodgers does like him as a striker, because I think Kyogo's actually played no bad in the wing.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, I thought he was great. And he's involved in the game, Liam.
It could be exciting to see like a Maeda queuing Kyogo front line with Maeda running in the middle, or even have the three of them swarm. I think give teams fits. If you've got those men running through the box and that, and again, as we talked about last night as well, gives us an opportunity to play a long ball, because again, we've got 3 guys up there that are rapid, and that'd be a great. Kilmarnock's a great team to test that out against. Because. As much as I said I'm grumpy the day, right? Yeah, I'm grumpy every day. As much as Brendan, I know Brendan's struggling right now, but you know what? You can always beat Derek McInnes. That's his punching bag.
Yeah, that's true.
And so he likes to be put. I think Brendan likes to put him back in his box. So that might be maybe that little bit of grumpiness you've seen for Brendan today is just rubbed off on me a wee bit. But I think Saturday afternoon I'll be fine. 9:30 game for me. So
okay, nice.
Weird watching games in the sunlight.
It's so mad that I still can't get my head around the times you watch football games. It's amazing. That what times where you are right now then? So it's what is it, 1:30?
Yeah, it's 1:30.
8 hours behind us.
With a lot of 4 4 o'clock games. I mean, you know you're a fan when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go and watch Celtic Ross County and
I love that, mate.
Livingston. And people say, "Who are you watching?" Celtic. Oh, who are they playing? And you're just like, "Who?" You know.
No, it's the dedication that you show them, mate. You know what I mean? I think that can go under the radar. I think that's, you know, one of the main reasons why you've got such a right to be critical of whatever it is you want to be critical of, Liam. I mean, there's dedication to watching the team, and then there's what you do. Do you know what I mean? So, fair play.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like that, and I think that's why the fans' voice, the podcasts are so good as well, because, yeah, I might not be a professional football manager, but you know what? Like a lot of people, and there's a lot of guys that have played at a high level, probably watching this bus right now, and there's other people that have coached or even just managed teams of people or fucking workers on sites and stuff like that know how to manage and people and all that. And I think those opinions are every bit as relevant as, you know, Brendan Rodgers, who I think a lot of football managers just get lucky and they get a job for life. You get the right player at the right time in the right team, you know, and all of a sudden you've elevated a manager career. And as we've seen with a lot of them, it's a career for life, you know.
Yeah. Well, interesting with the other side of the world, in contrast to you, we've got Graham Tyrrell, who says his kickoff is fucking 3:30 a.m. kickoff with me. I'll watch the replay when I get up there because he's in the land down under Australia. Right. So he's on the other side of the world. But yeah, we're everywhere. What can you do? We're here, there.
That'd be torture for me. I would just stay up all the time.
No, you get used to it.
I know what I'm like. I'd end up staying up.
No, you get used to it, and actually it's I don't know, it's because I walk to the games, I don't have to drive and stuff like that. It's kind of good, and I like just walking through the town at fucking middle of the night by myself, trying not to get, you know. It's been a few close calls.
Oh, yeah.
I bet.
But it's interesting, a moment ago you brought up the long ball thing, so I was like, I just talked about that on TNF, and again, Tuesday was a great example, the same with Ibrox, where I just feel like, Russell, and I said this a couple of weeks ago after the Ibrox defeat with me and Liam were on the Friday, feeling like, I just feel like football nowadays, and not just the Celtic thing, just football in general, the individuality is dead. Every team is coached to a system and whatnot, and it feels like players don't have the freedom to kind of make up their own mind. Now, Russell, do you remember when Ange first took over, we had a game against AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League, I want to say, Dutch team. Remember, we were doing the qualifiers. It was I think it was Alkmaar we played, wasn't it? And well, Ange's first or second, like
easy Alkmaar. Remember that.
So the home game, we were kind of under the cosh late on in the game, and there was a moment in the match when there was like a water break or something like that, like the player, maybe about 10 minutes to go, and Joe Hart came all the way out of his goal to go and speak to Ange to tell him that what we were doing, which was sort of like, you know, a bit of playing around the bag, taking a few chances.
Yeah.
And he basically said, this isn't working. And then for the rest of the game, his goal kicks, he was just going long, and just try to relieve the pressure. And for like what happened at Ibrox and what happened on Tuesday night, where we were clearly under the cosh, we were clearly, you know, rattled with the high press and whatnot, a very aggressive opponent. It's like, I just feel like the players out on the park, have they not got like the individuality being pretty much dead in football? I'd like to see more players, you know what, this isn't working, and just go on. Even if the manager's told them, I want you to stick to this, I want you to do this, I would rather they just booted it clear just to relieve the pressure so they could reset, rather than what we saw with the third goal where CCV gets caught out, he tries to give it to Alistair Johnson and he gets caught out as well. We give away the corner and they score right off it. I would much rather that they would just, or the players who are out there, they can judge more than anybody how it's going because they're the ones in the moment. They were just like, okay, well, this isn't working. Just go long, just get it up the park so we can collect ourselves here, because we invite it on ourselves. But I think it's a problem with football around the world, Russell. It just feels like nowadays everyone wants to play a system. In fact, you know, you've got Pep Guardiola, the TNF, and talk about tactics and stuff like that, where it's like everybody wants to play that, you know, like his style and whatnot. And yeah, it just seems like it's the thing now. Like coaches just turn them into robots. And it's like, where's individuality? Where's players who can make a judgment call out on the park and just decide this isn't working, let's do something else? But it's always got to stick to the plan, got to keep doing this, got to keep doing that. So hopefully we don't see any more of that for the rest of the season, Russell, because we've clearly realised that we don't cope very well with it.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying about, you know, clear your lines and things like this as well, but The actual long ball I'm referring to is just if the midfield when they're gathering it, and normally it does, we do make it to the midfield stage. If they're getting that high press and then you're having to go back to the defender, I would like to be thinking that one of the three up front go every time Calmac gathers the ball from the centre backs and turns, or Engels gathers the ball, whoever it may be. One of you fucking go, and we'll try and find you like a quarterback. Do you know what I mean? Get that long ball right through. It's probably not a quarterback who does that. But get that one ball played and try and find them. It doesn't need to be hoofed. It can be clipped. It can be a well-measured pass. I always look, a great example of it was under Rodgers, and it's obviously an infamous one. Scott Brown does not hoof that ball to Mr. Dembele Ibrox, even though he's half the end of it. That is a measured 40-yard pass over the top, in which there was so much space for Musa to go into. He has the depth to touch, which I believe Kyogo does. I think Adam Ida's an instinctive finisher when he's on his game as well. Nicholas Kuhn and Maeda are in a race for 25 goals each this season, so it seems. One of the three go, and you start getting into those areas where defenders have to turn, face their own goal. They're not going to win a foot race against their lads. And then once they're in, we have proven Kyogo's at a 30-plus goal season, or 40 goals. Does he have 40 goals on you? Did he get 40?
I think in Andrew's next season got 34. I want to say 34.
That's what it was. 34. We've got Nicholas Kuhn definitely going to surpass 20 goals this year, provided he stays fit. Maeda, I think, on course for 20 goals this year. Give them some space to run in. They win the foot race, and they fancy that we put the ball past the goalkeeper as well. And it relieves that pressure. And before you know it, this is the key bit. See, once you've made them think twice about, shit, if we keep pressing them, we keep having to turn on our heels, their pace is killing us back then. You spook the opposition, they start to retreat a bit more, and before you know it, Brendan, you can go back to playing your possession-based game as well, because you're now going to have the space to do that. So if you don't like the press, counter the press. Don't just try and play through it all the time if it ain't working. Counter the press, and then the way the game will pan out, I would imagine, is if you throw enough punches that they don't like, they will just go in within their shell a wee bit. And that will then allow you to go back to playing more of the football that you kind of are synonymous with and is more sort of default sort of Brendan Rodgers stuff. This might sound very basic the way I'm explaining it, and that's because it is. But it's just a solution I'm trying to think right now of, whilst I'm seeing the press hurt us so much. 6 goals conceded this season in our 2 away games, both. One was a second half against Dundee, one was 90 minutes against Rangers. Come up with a way to stop it, because young boys burn on Wednesday night. I guarantee you will not just sit off us. They will be far more like what Dundee were like in that second half, and far more like what Rangers were like in that game. So either learn from it, or you keep trying to do the same thing that's failed you twice this season. I'll be intrigued to see what we do.
Yeah, well, on Patrick Kerrigan backs up your point there, and it's a great example about the offside goal at Ibrox. It came from Bernardo just lifting it over the Rangers defence, and just Kyogo got in the end. Yes, it was offside, but it's like, that worked. That actually worked that day. Why not try doing stuff like that more often? We also had a moment at the game at Ibrox as well, but Liam Scales just went long, and Kyogo was very, very close to getting on the end of it. And again, it's like their back line, can't cope with that high ball, and it causes chaos as well. It can do, because obviously tomorrow we're playing Kilmarnock. We know what we're going to get from Killie. They're going to sit with 10 men behind the ball. Now, interesting enough, it is a cup game, so they can't play for a draw. If they play for a draw and try to play for penalties, it's a lottery. No team should ever really be playing for penalties, so they're going to have to come and maybe be a bit more open. But there will be spells where they'll be quite happy to just let Celtic have the ball. So if you go a bit long, you'll cause a wee bit of carnage. Them just dink balls over them. The defence, I'd imagine, isn't the quickest. With Kilmarnock, I'd imagine there's quite a few cloggers there. So try and catch them, flat-footed. Just try and get them by, because we've got the pace to do it. So these are the things you've got to do in mix-up, because we've seen that teams can suss our sideways passing, just keep looking for the space to open up. And when it works, it's absolutely fantastic. But if a team just digs their heels in and is just happy to sit with 10 men behind the ball, it becomes very repetitive. You say the horseshoe, Liam? Aye. The horseshoe says you left wing, okay, that's not working, all the way over to the right wing and whatnot. So it can, against teams like Kilmarnock tomorrow, these are the things that can benefit us. Just mix it up a wee bit, just dink it over the defence. Guys like Kyogo, Maeda and Kuhn running behind, Jesus Christ, man, one of them's definitely going to outrun the Kilmarnock defence, no problem at all. So I'd like to think that, these are things that Brendan is considering for like tomorrow and obviously going forward this season, because I say we're seeing evidence now where people are starting to suss it. So hopefully he's got that plan B that we keep talking about, Liam. Hopefully it's there.
I think as well too. It's like you make our players very, very vulnerable to like an ankle cruncher and all that sort of stuff when we play that type of football as well. And that's something Kilmarnock love to do, is come in and rattle 2 or 3 of our players early on. We've got players coming back for injury, and we've got players having a big game, next week as well. So again, stretching them and making them run, and having them chases and all that, that is a much better thing for me, I think, than watching our player in the middle, getting all these balls like feet to back, like just wee layoff passes and that, and then getting crunched in the middle, because we get some of these hammer throwers for Kilmarnock and Ross County, and the referees just tend to let that first one go, and they all build up over time. So yeah. I hope we're stretching them. I hope we're running at them. I agree with.
Well, the big question with the team selection for tomorrow is, Russell, do you trust Trusty, or do you want Scales back in? Because the lip readers were out. We talked about the body language experts from a couple of years ago in the COVID year. Apparently the lip reading experts were out, and apparently Brendan Rodgers was seen saying something along the lines of "fucking weak as piss" when he looked at after the third goal. Brendan Rodgers doesn't usually get quite angry, but yeah, that was quite interesting to see the close-up from the Sky cameras after the third goal. And in his presser after the game, his post-match, he said about Trusty when he was asked, he went, got to be stronger than that. Got to stay on your feet, because obviously you get out-muscled as well, jumped at the back post and whatnot. So I would still stick by Trusty. I think changing your centre-back pairing is a bad move if you keep doing it. We've seen evidence in the past. Maybe not as extreme, because some of the examples I can think of, we were having a shocker this season, but I'm not a big fan of constantly changing the back line, especially the centre backs who are obviously right in front of the goalkeeper. So for me, Russell, I would still stick with Trusty. I still trust him, but yeah, because I'd say I'd be interested to see what Brendan does after taking Trusty off in the cup final to reinstate Scales, to then that happened at Ibrox, and then Scales is dropped. Trusty comes in for a few weeks and then he's back out again. And it's like, again, I'm getting vibes. Remember when Neil Lennon kept chopping and changing the goalkeeper in the COVID season, was very public about it as well, about how they weren't performing. And it's like,
it's a good comparison, that one, to be fair.
It's not something that I'm a big fan of, but who do you
can we have it both ways though, Phil? Because what we also constantly talk about is the need for competition and it to be balanced and it to be fair. Now, if you contract, I know what you're saying about the goalkeepers. Okay, let's look at when it was Giakoumakis Kyogo. And we thought it was completely ridiculous that Giakoumakis wasn't getting starts when Kyogo was out off the boil. And Giakoumakis seemed to be on fire every time he came on. He felt like he was going to score a goal. He was certainly looking likely to score a goal if he didn't get one, and he wasn't getting the nod. And we thought it was unfair that they weren't getting rotated more. So now you're in a position where if we're having fair competition, I think on paper it should be Scales who comes in. I'll tell you the reason why I don't. And that is because Rodgers will hang his hat on Trusty for the Champions League match before Scales, and therefore he won't break up that unity with that eye. The Young Boys Bern game is the biggie for me, and I think Scales is someone that he doesn't mind having as an option to play. But if you had to pick one, he picks Trusty, and therefore he's not going to take Trusty out the team and then 3 days later restore him to the Champions League team. He'll just be consistent with it, I think, anyway. One other way around it would be perhaps he's going to wrap Cameron Carter Vickers up in Wolves.
Maybe.
It's called Cameron Carpet Vickers. What
was it?
Cameron Carter Vickers.
We were calling him in his first season.
Carpet slippers were called.
But that's a good point, actually, because we were told about his injuries. He might be rested, yeah.
That could happen. But I've got to be honest, Phil, I do think the competition for spots in the team should be fair. The rest of the games, I do think it's too big a game. As I say, I call it a cup final against Young Boys Bern midweek, and he's going to want it. He's going to change his thinking in terms of competition for spots in the lead up to that, because he has to get it bang on the money for Wednesday, and he has to have the team primed for that. But out with that, for me, Trusty's performance If it was weak as piss, the only question I normally ask is, what week is this? Apart from in January, because I'm on the ball. But Trusty would normally, I think, come out the team if he puts in that display and Scales goes in. And I've got to be honest, I know people like to keep a steady in the same back four. I think if you're having bona fide competition for spots and it's real, and it is because you don't see, what's the other argument that we say? Oh, if one drops out, we've got someone ready to go in and there's no drop off in quality. If that's the case, then I think if you don't play well one day, there's someone breathing down your neck, they come in and take your shot. I just don't think it will apply with the Champions League game upcoming. And to call it Champions League game, cup final coming up. I don't think that's what you'll do.
The Champions League final against Young Boys at Bern. That's how big it is for us. This really is the biggie. But remember at the start of the season,
you're worrying me, mate. He's rolling his eyes. He's going to say something.
I like Scales. Scales has got what, 2 Champions League man of the matches.
He does, yeah.
He's been in the team of the week. He's played well with there. I think our biggest problem, wait for it, is the guy playing beside both Trusty and Scales. No matter who plays in that position, is at a disadvantage. I watched the game by the 3 goals. But by the way, great ball for the first one, but what a fucking header that was by McCowan, right? Most of the ones are at the park. So, but that second goal that brought them back into it, you talk about Taylor going up to make it look as if he was jumping for a header. And then the guy that out-headed him is the guy that actually outran him into the 18-yard box to score the goal, whereas Taylor was just jogging back. And that's infuriating. That and... I think he just always goes missing there. And I think Trusty and Scales get pulled out of position. McGregor gets pulled out. Everybody gets pulled out to accommodate the wee man. There's Lucky Charm. I don't know what it is, what he's got on Rodgers, why he's... I think he's a really poor player, and I think it affects the rest of the people in the game. He's the only one out there waving his arms and shouting at people. Now he's added the wee strop going off at the bench. I mean, I don't see that at Celtic Park, but what you can see in the television, I've seen him now twice throwing up his arms when he's going off because he's getting substitute. Saying, who the fuck is this guy? Why? The fact that we're talking which defender should be starting and none of them's Taylor. Again, he's managed to outlive another one. He's like the Jason Voorhees of football. Which I think he's done. See him. He'll be at Celtic. Never mind David Pleat. Greg Taylor will be at Celtic till he's 80. Guarantee you.
Still playing left back.
A job alongside John Kennedy for the rest of his career. It had to happen. The people in the chat know it's Friday night. It's tradition. It's heritage. It has to
on a serious note, though. What's serious? If you look at no, I don't mean that. Sorry, I mean beside the laughter. Taking what you said there, if we say Taylor's seen off 5 left backs, how many left centre backs has he seen off as well?
Yeah.
There's an argument for you. Because the revisionism on Starfelt makes me laugh now on that fucking Twitter again. Oh, I really liked Starfelt. Did you fuck? He got pelters all the time. He was getting slagged for being a donkey. The revisionism on him makes me laugh. And then I look at other left-sided centre-backs. Everyone who comes in and plays at left centre-back, Nawrocki, 4 million quid, donkey. Lagerbielka, donkey. You're
Kobayashi.
Donkey. There's more as well. I'm trying to think since he's been there. Christopher Julien. He was the left-sided centre-back. There is an argument to be said there that people don't like playing with him at that left centre-back role. I do think, and I've said this point a few times, but fuck it, I'll say it again. I do think it's heightened and it's emphasised by a guy who's got free license to play a completely different role and not a symmetrical one or a parallel one to the opposite fullback. I think they should be in unison and doing the same things either side. This guy, and that is what Rodgers tried to implement when he first came in, and you could get no form off Taylor. To me, that means you replace him back then. My hunch though is, and I told you at the time, I think Kieran Tierney was a person of interest in Rodgers' first window. And I think he was willing to wait to get Tierney. That was the long-term goal. And in the meantime, how do I get some form off this guy? They've pandered to going back to, that is one element of Ange Ball Rodgers wanted to keep going, and that was playing him as this lone wolf, inverted fullback. And there is, by the way, the odd beautiful clip through ball that he's played over the top. I highlighted 2 last night, Liam, and you to be fair to you, you completely agreed. There's no getting away from these bits. But there is other aspects where he is found wanting and players around him are found wanting. And I also do believe that if I want someone in the centre circle playing a pass with a cultured left foot, I want it to be Rio Itati. I want it to be Arnie Ingalls. I want it to be Luke McKibben. I want it to be Callum McGregor. I'm not necessarily that keen on it being my fullbacks. And this overload and pattern like that is so fully shite. It's unbelievable. They're actually congesting the midfield lines at Celtic. They're congesting it, and it's diluting what the real creative players can do in the side when you've got an extra body in there. And I'm sorry, but his ability compared with the aforementioned midfielders there is limited in comparison. So why the fuck would he be the focal point in there? And then, of course, it's leaving a problem for take your pick for what left centre-back, as we just ran through a good few that he's seen off, as we say. It will change when KT comes in. He'll be playing the role that we expect him to play. That will be far more dynamic. And if he has to play inverted, by the way, you'll get a hell of a lot more quality. And there'll be no jogging back for KT either. It'll be absolute sprints the whole way. I'm not trying to pick on him too much. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. But what I'm trying to do is, William's comments, he can get taken out of context because it's been brought up so many times. But see, when I'm listening there, you're going, okay. Actually, when you think about it, if he's seen off all these left backs and that's a win, he's seen off a hell of a lot of left centre backs too that have been deemed failures.
Aye. Yeah. Christie's comments pretty much agreeing with saying Bingo Boy say he makes our left centre backs work twice as hard. Then you rattle off all the names, huh?
I think he does. I think he's a player that's void of a lot of creativity, and his best moments is when he tries to explore a bit of creativity. And I think Rodgers, like a lot of data-driven managers and stuff of his time and all that, I've seen he overlooked the creativity. You know, as we've talked about David Pleat there, you seem to the guys that have strong systems and things like that seem to reward people that can play the systems rather than somebody that can break it or circuit break, as he likes to say, with the moments of flourish and creativity. And by the way, that's part of our brand. We've sung songs about that. We glorify in the creative Celtic player. And I think that's something that we see when we play that horseshoe, when we play that Rodgers style. It seems to be void of creativity, and the people that get rewarded are the people that don't step out and don't try and that creative bit of flourish or a bit of flair. I mean, you look at Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor is very plain crisps when it comes to a player, is it? I mean, he's, you know, when he plays that role, he's just huffing and puffing. It's an industrious, you know, it's like a proper workman's, you know, day. You know, you don't see anymore. I mean, there was some when he was young, but that's youth, right? You just don't see those flourishes of creativity right now. And Taylor's a classic example of that as well, where he gets by because he does exactly what he's told. And basically, when you need anything more than that, there's nothing there. You know, I'd rather go and see the Dalglishs and Jimmy Johnsons and the Larsons and the Lubos and the players grow up, you know, representing Celtic rather than someone that does really, really well on the scientific numbers and the data that adds up, you know, despite the...
That's why David Pleat's coming in, man.
I hope so.
You'll definitely not be going with the data-driven shite. You can tell that a million miles away.
I don't think he will be. I don't think he will. But guys, we've done an hour and 15. It's been a very lively Friday feeling, and still 130 watching. So thank you for choosing us a Friday night. As I've said a few times now, I know Friday nights can be a busy schedule on the old Celtic YouTube. So if you choose the Boise Bus, thanks for jumping on board. But before we go, we have things to wrap up. So we'll go back to, before we do our predictions, obviously, at the start of the show, I did my mystery player. It was a very easy one tonight. So I'm going to bring it back up. For anyone that came in late, I do this every Friday now. I've got a player hidden behind the Boise Bus logo, and you've got to guess who it is by their career. So I think it's quite an obvious one tonight. So this player played for BFC Dresden, then Bayer Leverkusen, then Celtic, and Hertha Berlin. Quite a short career in terms of the number of teams he played for, but quite a player to say the least. Because Russell, who do you think's behind the Boise Bus logo tonight?
Andreas Tom.
Oh, of course, it's Andy Tom.
Yes, hoorah.
And I think I'm quite confident in saying that if I asked the two of you your outstanding memory of Andy Tom, would it involve him nearly busting the net at Ibrox? I use the term thunder bastard a lot. This is the quintessential definition of a thunder bastard. One of those shots that when it was hit, it stayed hit. It was a ridiculous goal. A free each draw with Rangers, 3 eaches. That's quite topical right now. But yeah, what a goal it was. And what a player. As I said earlier on, I think an underrated player in that Celtic team. Quite easily forgotten when you look at the
first
three
player
amigos.
to play for West and East Germany, is that right?
Yes, he was. Yes, you're correct. Euro
like
92, he was an East German-born player that played for the United Germany when they became
the United Germany.
Euro 92, yeah.
Right, so he played for East Germany. He was the first to play for the United Germany. And also, not just that goal, I always remember one of my early memories of Celtic. I was kind of in the loop by now, but it was the 2-1 Dundee United game. Remember that, the Scottish Cup?
The Cup game, we scored 2 goals at the end. Yeah,
2 goals at the end. I think it was Van Hooijdonk and Tom racing through and just rifling it into the centre of the goal, but kind of high. That was pandemonium. That was fucking amazing. But it's 1-0 down, looked like we're heading out the Cup, and Celtic got 2 in the last sort of 5 minutes, and Andy Tom was the winner.
Aye, that was a great one. Liam, any Andy Tom memories in your mind?
Aye, mine's is a bizarre one though. I was in Toronto, wearing the hoops, and I was with a couple of people, and as I was going up the escalator, there was a guy coming down the other escalator, but it was like miles apart on the other side of the mall thing, and he seen the hoops and he shouted, "Hey, Celtic!" And I turned around, never knew the guy, and I go, "We signed Andy Tom today." I went, "Oh, fucking right, man." And it's like the two of us waving each other in Toronto, and they would say, "Why are you so happy?" And I go, "Oh, we just signed German international Andy Tom." Yeah.
A German international. I mean, nowadays I just
get that
German international. Yeah.
Where did we get that £2.1 million from?
I know.
The cushions.
How did we?
Yeah, that was a Fergus McCann sanction sign.
That's when we were tight. Remember? That's when we were booing the club for not spending enough, and yet we buy players for the same fee now and expect the same level. It's funny. I just find it funny.
Yeah, it's a proper biscuit tin back then. That was the mentality.
But was it though? I mean, compared to now, what the fuck is it now then? A biscuit coffin? Exactly. Fucking hell.
When Fergus McCann did spend, he spent
safe.
Well, essentially. The players that we brought in were phenomenal. You know, Alan Stubbs, Van Hooijdonk, Cadetti, Canio. You know, these players at that time, fantastic. So, yeah, the German international signing for Celtic. The idea of it now is wild.
We still get the biscuit.
Well, Marvin Comper.
It's overflowing.
Oh, Marvin Comper, yeah, of course.
And it's locked in Peter Law's safe. Nobody's getting to that biscuit tin. It's like surrounded by ninjas and everything. It's like Diana Jones. Get that biscuit tin open now.
And one other thing I wanted to bring up as well before we go as well tonight, even though it's not necessarily Celtic related, but obviously tonight, some breaking news before we went on. Paul Maguire said in the chat, RIP to the legend Dennis Law, who passed away tonight. Yeah, 84 years old, but I believe he was diagnosed with dementia a few years ago. So, there's so many players from that era. Bobby Charlton was the same, but Dennis Law, obviously way before my time. But again, you've seen the archive footage and whatnot. What a player! What a character as well. That's the other thing. What an absolute character. But yeah, Dennis Law passing away tonight. But Liam, you said.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that one where he played with, where he relegated Manchester United.
Playing with Man City.
Aye, and it was a back heeler. And it was one of the cheekiest back heelers you've ever seen. And he just sort of put his hand on his head. He knew that was them relegated at that time. And what a player. I mean, I remember him lighting it up for Scotland. Like as a young boy, that was my first Scotland star, you know. Yeah. So I'm sad to see that that he died.
Yeah, he used to do an annual soccer book, and I remember like having it was like the 1991. Fucking hell, I'm showing my age. But I had like the 1991. I can still picture it now, like reading all his opinion on all these different players and the greatest Scots to ever play in like England and stuff like that, like the Spurs goalkeeper and shit like that. It was class, man. And it was great going through like he went through the Scotland internationals and where their current season was. I think Ali McCoy was at Sunderland at the time, if I remember. And he gives like a wee paragraph on each, but it was Dennis Law's opinion on them all. And it brilliant book that. I always remember it. And of course, Only an Excuse's impression of him was pretty good too.
Oh yeah, it's this legendary into that.
Lubo, what a player! And what a board game, you know? What was the other one? He was like fucking
Torino, you love to say Torino.
Torino, you know, well, you know how the show how it goes. And he was like, it's like what is it? De Boer. What about De Boer? He was everywhere, wasn't he?
I'm sure Jonathan Watson did one for France '98. He kept saying Bordeaux. The way he said Bordeaux is Dennis Law.
Well, De Boer, he was like, he was so good. He was everywhere. You know, you'd think there was two of them, you know? Obviously, the Boers are twins.
Accent.
Fantastic. But yeah, Dennis Law passed away there. So yeah, R.I.P. Dennis Law. Say football legend, Scottish legend, an absolute superstar in Scottish football. And I say, what a character he was. Okay, scoreline predictions before we go. Tomorrow is about just getting through. It's a cup game. It's just not about the points, not about goal difference. It's just a case of just score more than the other. Take it. We don't want extra time. We definitely don't want Kilmarnock to take us to extra time, especially with a big European game coming. So we want to get it done as quickly as possible tomorrow. So I say that Celtic will go out and we'll get a 3-0 win. But we'll dust them aside pretty comprehensively, I hope. Russell, what's your feelings for tomorrow?
3-0.
3-0. All right. And Liam?
4-0 if Greg Taylor starts. 4-3.
Oh, Ali's in agreement with you. There's one right there.
4-3.
Oh, dear.
Oh, Greg. I loved earlier on as well when they were talking Greg Taylor. There was literally a siren going on outside your house. That was literally the Greg Taylor klaxon. It was going off. It's actually going off. Mad. The timing was impeccable. But yeah. That wraps up then a Wild Friday feeling, guys. So we knew done an hour and a half. It's been a good one tonight. So still over 100 watching. So thanks again for sticking. Hit the like button before you go. And if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button because we're getting so close to 5,000. So please hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Stick around a bit longer, guys. Keeps in your life. So tomorrow, PMP will probably be about 8ish, I would guess. Russell,
wish me luck. Terry will be in the bevy all day, man. I'm fucking ready to deal with that. See these drinkers, man.
Oh, mate, these drinkers, I know. They time for it. But yeah, good luck with that one tomorrow. But yeah, PMP will be on. So make sure, again, hit the subscribe button. You'll know when it's on live, folks. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow night, Russell and Terry are back talking about a fantastic Celtic performance. We're into the next round of the Cup. And there is all eyes on the young boys of Bern on Wednesday night. Yes. The real Cup final, the Champions League final, essentially, for us.
Yes.
So yeah, going forward.
It'll be Terry, Russell, and
oh yes,
Timo Pukki.
Yeah,
Timo Pukki will be there as well.
Oh my god! So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. So yeah, we're going to head off now. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Next one.
Cheers.